Hello there and a very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Dasni Atada.
Good evening, I'm Jamal Ratnayaka. Up first in headlines.
Supreme Court informs President the Provincial Council elections cannot take place as per the Provincial Council's Amendment Act. Attorney General submits 21,000-page file seeking the extradition of ex-Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran. National Elections Commission informed party secretaries presidential poll will be between the 10th of November and 8th of December. SLPP to contest separately if no agreement reached. UMP MPs stress they will not back down in their cause to make Sajith Premadasa president.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමා ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකයා සහ පොදු ජනතාවගේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා බවට පත් කිරීම සඳහා අප ගෙන යන සටන අපි නතර කරන්නේ නැහැ.
The attempt to sell the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port is still in the works. Tonight, we have Newsfirst Charlene Benedict and Asoka Dias to tell us more on this from close proximity to the Colombo port.
I'm coming to you from close to the premises of the Colombo port. Now, as you can see behind me, the operations of the Colombo port are ongoing. Needless to say, the Colombo port is an important asset for Sri Lanka, a national asset of Sri Lanka, if you will. But how is the current administration of the country managing this national asset? We have continued to report on a number of irregularities at the Colombo port and a number of mismanagements at the Colombo port. Joining us with a number of other revelations today is senior journalist Ashoka Dias. Ashoka, what's wrong with the Colombo port this time around?
We have three terminals operating at present in Colombo port, and fourth one, the eastern terminal. It is a matter of purchasing the gantries for the terminal and install them. That is, it is costed for $190 million. And I mean, aren't we a country who can't afford $190 million?
But now what's proposed is for the eastern terminal to be developed as a joint venture between India, Japan and Sri Lanka. Of course, ministers of this government of good governance itself, namely Minister Arjuna Mahendran and Mahinda Samarasinghe, both former ministers of ports and shippings, came out and said that Sri Lanka alone can develop the eastern terminal of the Colombo port.
On top of that, His Excellency the President Maithripala Sirisena very clearly said Sri Lanka should discuss this, understand this, and then take a decision without rushing into a decision and inviting outside partners to invest and be partners of this Colombo port eastern terminal.
Now, what more to say? After these ministers came out and made these statements, the eastern terminal of the Colombo port is a potential terminal that can bring in massive amounts of foreign revenue into the country, much needed foreign revenue into Sri Lanka. But the proposal now is to hand this over to a joint venture between India, Japan and Sri Lanka. But the problem lies therein. India, Japan and these countries are competitors to Sri Lanka when it comes to managing of ports.
And on top of that, we have the experience of what happened in the Hambantota port. When ports are, investors come from away from Sri Lanka, they look at to get the maximum benefit out of their investment. And they would on paper say that, okay, Sri Lanka will be given 51% of the stake of the investment. But technically, that is true. But practically, what we get is not the lion's share. Or practically, what we don't get is the opportunity to reap the benefits. They will give us the, section of supplies.
Yes, which is exactly what happened in the Hambantota port. We were handed over the service division to pick out the garbage, to provide cleaning services, to provide electricity, to provide water. But the profitable operations of the Hambantota port are all run by foreign companies. This is the same fate of the eastern terminal.
Trade unions of the port services, Colombo port, are complaining on this, and they continue to agitate that this is not a wise move to bring in countries away from, countries China, Japan, India to invest in at this juncture at our key terminal, the eastern terminal of the Colombo port.
Also, India is currently on the path of developing new ports surrounding Sri Lanka, container terminals. These are similar to the eastern terminal in the Colombo port. Of course, we have the new proposed container terminal that is about to come up in the islands of Andaman, and many other ports that surround Sri Lanka. So technically, the Sri Lankan government, in this case Minister Sagala Ratnayaka, who is the current Minister of Ports and Shipping, is planning on handing out the eastern terminal of the Colombo port, one of the most profitable terminals of the Colombo port, to technically a competitor of Sri Lanka. What's the guarantee that these people can give that they will indeed develop this port?
And I mean, in this whole proposal, it says that Sri Lanka will raise $190 million US, and then later will get it reimbursed by a loan financial facility provided by Japan. You know, if we can raise 190 million, why are we going for another, facility later in the day and then give a stake in one of our key economic hubs?
But Ashoka, that is just one side of the irregularities and mismanagement at the Colombo port. Another is that the same Minister of Ports and Shippings, Minister Sagala Ratnayaka, has recruited 450 new employees. What is the issue surrounding that?
Now, we all know we are very close to the election. Presidential, general, provincial council, they name, everything is around the corner. And at this juncture, 450 people, the trade unions allege that new employment opportunities are offered, especially to people from the particular minister's constituency.
Okay, right. So these it must be noted that these individuals who are employed or recruited for these ports operations are not skilled employees.
And the trade unions continue to say that the government officers who are in charge of this recruitment, they didn't want to do it because they understand the sensitivity and the gravity of this.
Because there was a chief financial officer who was initially vested with the duty of paying the salaries of these employees. Now, since the finance ministry rejected the payment of these salaries, there was pressure mounting on this chief financial officer to pay the salaries of these employees. But when it came to a breaking point, this chief financial officer went overseas.
And his deputy also, did not want to get in and burn his or her fingers.
And now we've got an audit officer or an officer from a completely another field who has been imported, if you will, and put in that position and now forced to find a way to pay the salaries of these employees who have been recruited in contingent ways.
During the election times, doing certain things, we have seen this before in 2014-15, and the senior most government officer, the secretary to the president, was inquired and he was found guilty, and it is at present he is on appeal.
Yes.
But it is important to mention that people, the government officers who are paid by the people of this country, if they do wrong, then they are duty bound and they will be brought to books in a future government or a future, investigations. Now, this is a thing that the government officers as well as the ministers has to keep in mind.
But at the end of the day, what is important is that if these government officers, responsible government officers, I mentioned the word responsible because they are responsible for their actions. They cannot simply go scot-free by saying in court or pleading in court that this was the minister's instructions. Following illegal instructions is an offense in Sri Lanka, and they will be brought to court if these matters are of course done illegally.
Shalan, and another very important point is Sri Lanka's territorial waters. In 2010, immediately after the war with the LTTE, Sri Lankan government placed a claim officially and legally through United Nations to enhance our exclusive economic zone, which is now 200 nautical miles, to expand it to 800 nautical miles south of Sri Lanka and claim the Bay of Bengal, which has, I mean, scientifically proven lot of mineral deposits, gas deposits, and various other resources, and it is important for the national security as well for us to, get our resources.
The territorial integrity of Sri Lanka. Of course, though we say Sri Lanka is situated in the Indian Ocean, these are technically Sri Lankan waters. It should be called the Sri Lankan Ocean for all that matters.
And even in the map, it says Ceylon Plain in the map. But, I mean, we continue to say Indian Ocean. I mean, what is the logic?
Of course, the officials, instead of trying to sell off national resources like the eastern terminal of the Colombo port and start venturing on illegal recruitments during a run-up to a presidential election, should focus more on pursuing the true needs of the country.
And in India, I mean, they change names, Chennai, Bombay.
Exactly.
Those
are the names that were given during the Britishers, but they stamped their own identity on it.
Now we should push to change the name. I mean, Ceylon Plain. I mean, why can't we claim to, rename it as
the Ceylon Plain,
Sri Lanka Plain?
Exactly. It's these kind of actions that really can bring about the territorial integrity and the geopolitical advantage in this region towards Sri Lanka. It's not by selling off national assets such as the...
at a time where India is investing heavily on Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They are building a new port.
A container terminal.
And in Tuticorin they are having a new container terminal.
In
Cochin. So, I mean, around Sri Lanka they are investing. And if we get them as a partner, will they really allow us to blossom? Will they really allow Sri Lanka's terminal to blossom?
India has their own homegrown plan of bringing their nation to the top of the food chain. China has the One Road, One Belt initiative, which is aimed at their economic prosperity. Japan has their own plans for the economic prosperity of their country. But what are the plans that Sri Lanka has? Selling off national assets to different countries so that they can further their interests. Is this how we truly plan on moving forward? The question is left to the responsible authorities of Sri Lanka.
Now in more local news, a 5-member bench of the Supreme Court has determined unanimously that provincial council elections cannot be held under the previous system in the absence of the report of the Delimitations Review Committee.
The Supreme Court provided this determination in line with a query posed by President Maithripala Sirisena. The Secretary to the President announced this evening that the court had determined that the President is not empowered to declare electoral boundaries as per the delimitation report currently before the subject minister in the absence of the report of the Delimitations Review Committee. While a delimitation report was prepared in line with the Act adopted by Parliament in September 2017, as a result of several problems that arose, a review committee was appointed, chaired by the Prime Minister. However, as the review committee is yet to fulfill the task entrusted to them, the President had inquired from the Supreme Court if he was empowered to declare the electoral boundaries in line with the existing delimitation report. The President had also sought a determination on whether the provincial council elections could be held under the electoral system which prevailed prior to September 2017.
A letter to political party secretaries by the National Elections Commission revealed the presidential election will be held between the 10th of November and 8th of December.
The letter dated the 9th of August by the National Elections Commission only reached certain political party secretaries this morning. The letter notes if the parties are interested in contesting the presidential election, which will take place between the 10th of November and the 8th of December, they need to inform the National Elections Commission in that regard. The letter also contains information on election monitoring during the presidential poll. In addition, Examinations Commissioner General Sanath Pujitha informed the National Elections Commission the GCE ordinary level examinations are scheduled to take place between the 2nd and the 12th of December. Based on the prevailing situation, the presidential election would most likely take place between the 9th of November and the 2nd of December.
Meanwhile, the Trade Union Representative Convention of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna took place earlier today. Now, this convention is the latest in a line of conventions organised by the SLPP aimed at the presidential elections.
The presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who arrived at the event, first addressed the gathering immediately after his welcome. Gotabaya Rajapaksa agreed to a number of proposals put forward for the protection of the rights of the professionals.
As part of the United National Party's policy of selling national assets that began in 1977, they have ended up at the Hambantota port. This has brought the total number to 95. The People's Bank, the oil tanks in Trincomalee, the agricultural lands in Bibila, Polonnaruwa, Kantale, Trincomalee and Mana are also part of it. I suggest as a primary resolution at this convention, we prioritize defeating this government and bringing to power one which will protect national assets.
I pledge to implement all the proposals made today. Under our government, there will be no room for any extremist terrorists to rise. As per our education policy, the youth will not be abandoned and they will be given the skills to obtain better employment. We need to have a short-term and long-term plan for this, and we cannot wait for many years.
The leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa's arrival at the venue coincided with the end of Gotabaya Rajapaksa's address.
The SLFP today said if they cannot reach an agreement with the SLPP, they would put forward their own candidate for the presidential election.
When one forms an alliance, the presidential candidate must be chosen by all parties in that alliance. All of this happened without deciding who the prime ministerial candidate would be. We took actions very calmly. It is very clear we don't have any intention of sabotaging this. So if they act on mere estimations, we also have our own agendas to act on to save our party.
We have to clearly state we have understood where we stand at the moment, but we are not ready to engage in anything which will destroy the SLFP. We will try our best to win an election together. If we are unable to get together, the working committee has already taken a decision to contest the presidential election as the SLFP. We have to mention that we will act according to that decision. For the elections of the Alpitiya Pradesha Sabha, the UPFA will put forward the groups to contest.
The flexibility of the SLFP must not be considered as a weakness. Both the parties have to be united and flexible to defeat our common enemy, because we cannot support Ranil Wickremesinghe, Sajith Premadasa or Karu Jayasuriya. I believe the team led by our General Secretary Dayasiri Jayasekara, who is currently holding talks with the SLPP, would understand this deeply and reach a decision which would please the party supporters. We have many alternatives as opposed to joining the UNP. We can even contest alone. We can even join the JVP and form a broader alliance. I am saying opinions expressed by many here. We are yet to make a decision based on these ideas.
Opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa responded in the following manner regarding the topic of forming an alliance between the SLPP and SLFP. I do not believe it would cause any obstruction, and it cannot be an obstruction. Nothing has changed. Some do not view the talks in a positive manner. They want talks with the United National Party. 99.9% of them want to join with us for an anti-government and anti-UNP movement. I do not think the president-led SLFP would move towards the United National Party.
මේක ගිහිල්ලා හේතු කරයි කියලා එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයට. නෑ ඉතින් ඒක කරගෙන යනවා. ඒක නවත්තලා නැහැ. ඔව්.
The opposition leader made these comments while attending an event with Minister Ravi Karunanika this morning in Mutwal. The event was organised to declare open the Mukkulathor Cultural Centre constructed by the Sri Lanka Mukkulathor Cultural Association of Mutwal. After Mahinda Rajapaksa left the premises, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya attended the event. The Speaker, Party Leader Ranil Wickremesinghe, Deputy Leader Sajith Premadasa, myself, the leaders of the United National Front, as well as Manu Ganesan, Digambaram, Rauf Hakim, Rishad, Champika Ranawaka, Rajitha Senaratne and all others are working together to secure a Sri Lankan identity. We will create an environment where all can call this country our country.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is currently engaging in a 3-day official visit to the Maldives.
The Prime Minister is visiting the Maldives for 3 days based on an invitation extended by Ibrahim Mohamed Soli, the President of the Maldives, and was extended a warm welcome. Sri Lanka signed 4 agreements with Maldives, including an agreement on visa arrangements, along with a memorandum of understanding on social protection, vocational training and youth development, and higher education. Wickremesinghe will chair this year's Indian Ocean Conference, which will begin tomorrow and end on Wednesday at the Paradise Island Resort of Maldives. The Prime Minister is accompanied by Ministers Rauf Hakim, Vajira Abewardena and Daya Gamage, as well as State Minister Anuma Gamage.
Meanwhile, Minister Ajit P. Pereira found himself facing questions from the media once again today on the matter of the presidential candidate of the United National Party.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු කණ්ඩායමේ 77 දෙනාගෙන් 54 දෙනෙක්
54 of the 77 MPs in the parliamentary group have asked the Honourable Prime Minister to sign a written statement to swiftly resolve this matter. We are yet to receive a response to this. Until we reach such a resolution, we will not cease our campaign to make Sajith Premadasa the presidential candidate and a president for the people. We have not cancelled any events organised by us. Another major public rally will be held in Kurunegala on Thursday, the 5th of this month, to demonstrate the public support for Sajith Premadasa.
මහා ජන රැලියක් පැවැත්වෙනවා.
උගත්කම ජනබලය අධ්‍යක්ීම තියෙන අය අතරේ සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස කියන දේශපාලකයා ඔබ විතරක් කොහොමද එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයෙන් උඩට එන්නේ වෙන කවුරුත් නැද්ද ඒ තැන?
තව අය ඉන්නවා. ඒ හැමෝටම
There are others. Sajith has something unique that no one else does. That is his youth. Also, when Sajith becomes the president, there is no one above him to hold the strings. It will be Sajith himself. He will be accountable only to the people who elected him.
තමන් තොරපත් කරගත්ත ජනතාවට.
ඒතකොට දැන් මේ ඊයේ කැලණි රජමහා විහාරයේ දායක සභාවෙන් සභාවෙන් දුරින් ඉවත් කරන්න යෝජනාව සම්මත කරගත්තා. නායකත්වයේ ඉදිරියේදී ඉවත් වෙන්න වෙයිද කොහොමද?
අපේ එවැනි
Let us not speak of such nasty affairs. At this point, we are only speaking of the presidential candidacy.
ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකත්වය ගැන පමණයි.
Following an event in Kandy today, Minister Harin Fernando responded to questions posed by journalists.
එවැනි දෙයක් නොලබුණොත් විශේෂයෙන්ම ස්වාධීනව සහ වෙනත් ක්‍රමයකට මැතිවරණ ඉදිරිපත් වීම සූදානම්ක් තියෙනවද?
ඒක දෙවනියමට හිතන්න ඕන දෙයක්. මං හිතනවා අපිට පක්ෂ කඩන්න ඕනේ නැහැ, පක්ෂ එකමුතු කරන්න ඕනේ.
නායකත්වයට අභියෝග කරන සමාජිකයන් හට විනය පරීක්ෂණ ලැබීම සාධාරණයි.
ඒ වගේ මේක ඒක මේ චූන් වෙන්න කියන ඒවා නේ.
ඇමතුම කබීර් හසීම් ඇමතුමාගේ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ යම්කිසි කප්පාදුවක් ලක් කිරීමක් කියලා ආරංචියක් තියෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන් ඔබතුමාටත් විශාල අමාත්‍යාංශ කීපයක් තියෙනවා. ඔබතුමා ඊළඟ ඉලක්කය කියලා තමයි අභ්‍යන්තර ආරංචි මාර්ග වලින් සඳහන් කරන්නේ.
ඒ වුණොත් හොඳයි පළාති ගැස් වලට ගල් ගහනවනේ.
පාක්ෂිකයට නගන චෝදනාව තමයි තේරෙන තේරිල්ල මේ අයි පක්ෂයේ ඉන්න ප්‍රබලයින්ට නොතේරෙන්නේ කියලා.
මම නම් විශ්වාස කරන්නේ.
I assume it could be an issue among positions. The talks at hand are based on whether the candidate would receive the support of all the supporting parties. It is now evident. Based on our research, Sajith Premadasa is ahead even without being named as the candidate. We have shown it to the Prime Minister.
Onto a headline-making story now. The Attorney General has tendered Arjuna Mahendran's extradition request to the Ministries of Defence and Foreign Affairs for necessary authentication and transmission to the government of Singapore.
According to State Counsel Nishara Jayawatna, the coordinating officer to the Attorney General, the request made this evening comprised of 21,000 pages and all documents were certified by the High Court. State Counsel Jayawatna went on to note, warrants issued by the Permanent High Court Trial at Bar and the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court, as well as the Interpol Red Notice for the arrest of Mahendran secured by the Criminal Investigations Department were among those documents. On the 28th of June, a case was filed at the Permanent High Court Trial at Bar by the Attorney General against Arjuna Mahendran and the others accused in the central bank treasury bond scam.
Professor Carlo Fontaneca passed away this morning.
Professor Carlo Fontaneca passed away at the age of 86 following a heart attack at his residence. Professor Carlo Fontaneca was the president of the Sri Lanka Medical Council from 2012 to 2017 and received praise for his work both locally and internationally. As per his final wishes, the remains of the late Professor Carlo Fontaneca were handed over to the Ragama Medical Faculty this evening.
An OODA manor, which was constructed in Devalegama in Bulletin, Mathura, was vested with the people today.
The event was held under the auspices of the Deputy Leader of the UNP, Minister Sajith Premadasa.
This OODA manor, which was named Hasti Rajagama, consists of 27 houses. This is the 271st village constructed under the OODA manor program. A cost of 47.3 million rupees was borne to construct this village.
What is the economic direction of this country? The economic direction I envisage for this country to follow is a holistic one, that is, going forward as a country. The wealth is collected through the open economy and its benefits should be distributed equally among those in society. The ideal form of economy for this country would be a mixed economy which gives prominence to people. We have formulated the economic plan which is required to move this country forward, and based on that plan, it is a win-win situation for everyone. Extend your support to this national effort to uplift our country. I will guarantee your protection. I would also like to state Sajith Premadasa would work tirelessly to ensure everyone reap the benefits of the economic development.
Teaching appointments were awarded to 587 graduates who passed the Western Province Teaching Examination at the Foundation Institute in Colombo today.
The event was graced by President Maithripala Sirisena, and among 15,000 candidates who sat for the teaching examination in June, 587 were selected.
According to science, mankind was born through evolution. It started from water and then moved to land as amphibians. An amphibian always preys on another. In the present competitive education patterns, our thinking is also like amphibians.
One thing I've observed is 2 years after presenting the teaching appointment, they get married and then comes the maternity leave. It's a good thing. If you are not engaged as yet, these male graduates can find a good female graduate.
Much was spoken about the amphibian and the brain. Based on what he said, the issue needs to be solved by the politicians and those in the education sector. The governor spoke of maternity leave. It is something which cannot be stopped with the governor's power or the president's power. 51% of the population are women. 60 to 70% in the public service are women. However, the lowest female representation is from politics. When women contest the polls, fellow women do not vote for them. That is the truth. The renovated computer lab of the Yashodhara Vidyalaya was declared open today.
The lab was renovated by the Past Pupils Association of Yashodhara Vidyalaya at a cost of 1.5 million rupees. Past pupils of the school and former provincial councillor Jayantha De Silva attended this event.
There is an issue in politics. When I arrived, a teacher asked me who would be the presidential candidate. I did not respond. However, no matter who becomes the candidate, we must see if that person had taken bribes or committed murder and rape. We must first look into those factors and then decide on who to support.
The The following views were expressed on TV1's Newsline program this morning.
But everything, even a packet of milk has its date of expiry. Is good for human consumption within the 3 or 4 days that it is marked on the packet for the human beings. But beyond the 4 days is not good for the human beings.
It's not
good.
clean anymore.
It's not clean anymore, it's not good for consumption, it's not palatable by human beings. But there is still a value in that packet of milk. Though it's not good for human beings, it's good for the maggots, the worms and the cockroaches, you can give it to them.
Right.
Like a kind of alms giving.
Right.
So, these are the kind of creatures that are now hanging on to this expired packet of milk, which one would say as Ranil Wickremesinghe.
In sports news now, Sports Minister Harin Fernando commented on the present status of cricket while attending the launch of renovations of the Bogambara grounds in Kandy.
ICC එක තමයි සාමාන්‍ය ක්‍රිකට් පරිපාලනය කරන්නේ. ඒ ආචාර ධර්ම පද්ධතිය කියලා තිබුණේ පැහැදිලිවම.
The ICC is the governing body of cricket. The ICC Code of Ethics clearly mentions people connected to gambling cannot hold any position in the game. There are 66 games in Sri Lanka. The new regulation applies to all games, not only cricket. Honestly, the only reason for sports to develop is the federation. However, some take control of the federation as if it is their family inheritance. Afterwards, they secure the votes in order to remain there forever. I witnessed the same issue had arisen in Sri Lanka cricket as well. We included the words in the ICC Code of Ethics to our law as well. All 66 clauses were added. However, take a look at how stubborn some are and how they have no respect for the law. Yesterday, one person had gone to the AGM and questioned about it, saying he had never seen it. I believe such people are detrimental to sports. More revelations will be made. I consulted the Attorney General's department on what measures can be taken as per the sports law against such people. We will be compelled to suspend this person or take more severe action if he continues to remain in that sports body.
And that's a wrap of primetime news for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Dasni Athada.
And I'm Jayamal Ratnayaka. However, do not forget to watch Face the Nation coming up next with the UPFA's Shehan Semasinghe, the UNP's Vasanta Senanayaka and presidential hopeful Naga Nanda Kodituaku.
Take care.
And good night.